The pipeline is your lifeline. Build it, track it, and respect it, or get the hell out of the game. Let me ask you this. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you lost every single client that's in your pipeline, how long would your business survive? You know, some of you don't have a pipeline. You've got a graveyard. You got a spreadsheet or a CRM full of ghosts. People you checked in with like, I don't know, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, hoping that they're going to randomly just reappear and say, hey, you know what? I'm finally ready to buy or sell. But you know what? Let's just cut the bullshit. Hope is not a strategy. And a dead pipeline is just a slow, quick, quiet death for your business. Your pipeline, it's your heartbeat. It's your oxygen. It's your cash register. If you don't have no pipeline, you don't have any appointments. There's no offers coming in. There's no careers. There's no closings happening, and your career's it's down the drain. You know, your pipeline is not a suggestion. Your pipeline is your lifeline. Here's the illusion of busy work. Let's be honest. Some of you are running from the truth. You're being active, you're being busy, but you're not being productive. You're updating your Canva templates. You're posting your third story for the day. Maybe you're organizing your email folders and calling it work. You know, but reality is if I looked inside your CRM right now, would I find conversations? Would I find notes? Would I see what the next step is for each one of those clients? Would I see pain? Would I see urgency, clarity, and commitment? Or would I see a list of names with the words follow up later? Just slapped on everything. You know, Let me tell you what that is. That's avoidance wearing a name badge. We don't get paid to be, kinda consistent. We don't win by being busy. We win by building and moving the pipeline forward. NEPQ, neuro emotional persuasion questioning. This is the pipeline language that gets people to convert. Most agents, what they'll do is they'll follow up with by saying, hey, just checking in. I wanted to see if you're still thinking about it. Have you made a decision yet? That's just boring, that's predictable, and it's forgettable. NEPQ, what it does is it flips the script. It makes your conversations matter again to the people that you're speaking with. Here's how NEPQ revives that dying pipeline. You know, Start with emotion. Hey, can I ask you, what's changed since we last spoke that's made this decision harder to move on? You need to uncover some internal drivers. What's the biggest reason this move feels necessary for you? And create consequence clarity. What happens if nothing changes over the next 6 to 12 months? Do you see the difference? NEP doesn't just check in. NEPQ digs in. What it does is it humanizes your pipeline because people People don't move for logic, they move for meaning. You can't fix what you don't track. So let me let me say something a little harsh here. If you're not if you're not tracking your pipeline daily, you're stealing from your future. And here's what tracking looks like for the pros: the number of contacts added today, the number of conversations started today, the number of appointments set today, their needs are discovered, follow up is scheduled, and deals are advanced. Dead leads, they're just removed, and wins are closed. You don't manage a pipeline once a week, you live in it. You breathe it, you eat it for breakfast. Um, you don't just hope that people move forward, you track why they didn't. You track what they need next. You track the emotional tone of every single phone call. This isn't optional, this is the job. Here are some pipeline habits that the top 1%, you know, top producers in the country use. Um, and here's what those top producers do that you probably don't. They work the pipeline daily, every single day, not just occasionally. There's no off days from pipeline work. It's the gym for your business. They time block sacred hours for pipeline creation. They don't take calls. There's no noise, no distractions, just prospecting and follow up. And they use NEPQ to move those leads with empathy and with strategy. No more of those stupid robotic questions. Every call feels customized because it is. They treat leads like gold even when they're not ready yet because they know that the average lead converts between touch number 7 and touch number 12. They don't quit at sorry, not now. They keep nurturing. Not now just means not yet, but only if you stay in their world. Here's some pipeline killers that you have to eliminate. Um, let's talk about sabotage. Here's the 5 habits killing your pipeline. Assuming instead of asking. You think you know where they're at? Wrong. Ask them. Treating all leads the same. Buyers and sellers, investors and referral, they each require a path tailored to them. You're avoiding difficult follow-up calls. Reality is money is in the discomfort. So stop ghosting your own damn opportunities. Get high on maybes. Get a pipe full of maybes is just a comfort blanket with no paycheck. Letting leads rot. If your CRM smells like a stale fridge, it's because you've let things die. So there's a ritual to the daily pipeline power. So here's your new non-negotiable ritual. It's your pipeline power hour. 15 minutes, add new leads. 15 minutes, follow up with those hot leads using NEPQ questions. 15 minutes of nurturing long-term leads, with some personal insight. And 15 minutes of just taking out the garbage, getting rid of the dead leads, the no responders, and the bullshit. This is your church. This is your discipline. This is your armor. It's not glamorous, it's ugly, but it makes you rich. And more importantly, it makes you free. You know, don't just build a pipeline, build a future. You want freedoms? You want those options that you've talked about? You want to stop chasing and start attracting and pulling people into you? Then get religious about your pipeline. Because here's the truth. The market doesn't owe you a damn thing. Your brokerage, they owe you nothing. And your clients owe you less than nothing. But your pipeline, that's your lifeline. It's the only thing in this game that gives you as much as you give it. So, you want to stop worrying where your next deal is coming from? You want to stop being afraid of having those dry spells for weeks, for months? Then stop playing part-time with your full-time future. Get serious, get structured, get obsessed with building and with nurturing and with converting your damn pipeline. NEPQ, it will help you lead with empathy, but it's your discipline that's going to make you unstoppable. So build it, track your pipeline, respect your pipeline, or go find a job that just doesn't require results. Because in this game, the pipeline is your lifeline. Peace out.